New Zealand is often described as one of the most beautiful countries on Earth, a land of sweeping mountains, crystal clear lakes, rolling green hills, and beaches that stretch endlessly, a place that seems straight out of a travel brochure. Yet behind the postcard perfect scenery lies a complex economic story that few people outside the country fully understand, a story of opportunity, emigration, and structural limitations that is surprisingly unusual for a wealthy, developed nation. Despite its small population of just over 5.3 million people, New Zealand is considered extremely prosperous, with high standards of living, excellent healthcare, robust education systems, political stability, and a society that is generally egalitarian and safe. But paradoxically, these very strengths have contributed to one of the highest emigration rates anywhere in the developed world, with a significant portion of New Zealanders choosing to leave the country, most of them heading to Australia, a mere 3-hour flight away, attracted by larger cities, more dynamic job markets, and broader educational opportunities, a flow so substantial that over 10% of New Zealand-born people currently live in Australia, a number that dwarfs the proportion of emigrants from many countries experiencing war or economic collapse. Yet the drivers here are subtle, structural, and deeply connected to the country's size, geography, and economic composition. New Zealand's economy is highly unique because it is both advanced and extremely limited by population size and remoteness, which makes developing globally competitive industries challenging, since almost any industry that could scale internationally can be done more cheaply and efficiently elsewhere, closer to major shipping lanes in Asia or larger consumer markets in Australia, Singapore, or the United States, meaning that traditional manufacturing, advanced financial services, or large-scale tech operations rarely find New Zealand a compelling base, leaving only industries that require local presence, such as tourism, domestic financial services, local retail, maritime services, and agriculture, with agriculture standing out as a particularly powerful sector, leveraging highly fertile land, advanced mechanization, abundant water resources, and a southern hemisphere advantage to produce off-season products for the northern hemisphere markets, making New Zealand one of the most agriculturally productive nations in the world, despite its small population and wealth. Yet even with such a high-performing agricultural sector, the number of jobs it generates is relatively limited. Highly mechanized farms require few workers, and urban-educated young professionals are rarely interested in farm labor, leaving them to seek opportunities elsewhere. This brings us to housing, which is arguably the central pillar of New Zealand's economy and a major factor in the current emigration trends, because buying, selling, renting, building, financing, and regulating property collectively account for nearly half of the nation's economic output, creating an unusual situation in which a majority of economic activity revolves around land and housing markets rather than diverse industries. And the result is soaring real estate prices, making homes unaffordable for many young people, particularly in major cities like Auckland, Wellington, and Queenstown. The government has attempted measures to temper this market, including banning foreign buyers, but these policies have had limited effect, largely because foreign buyers represented only a small portion of total purchases, and critically, Australian citizens were exempt, meaning that the largest source of external demand remained unregulated and wealthy. Australians continue to buy second homes or retirement properties in New Zealand, drawn by scenic landscapes, favourable taxation policies, and the lack of certain fees like stamp duty that make New Zealand properties more financially attractive than comparable homes in Australia. And while domestic measures have cooled investor enthusiasm slightly, prices remain far higher than what most young New Zealanders can afford, which in turn pushes many of them to leave, not just for cheaper housing, but for greater career opportunities, as New Zealand simply does not have the scale or diversity of industries that cities like Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane can offer, especially for professionals in specialized fields such as advanced technology, finance, research, engineering, healthcare, or higher education. Education is another significant factor, as Australian universities offer a larger number of spots, more specialised programs and tuition parity for New Zealand students, making it easier and more attractive for students to study abroad while also taking advantage of future work opportunities, and because of the deep cultural, linguistic, and legal similarities between the two countries. Moving from New Zealand to Australia is extraordinarily simple, a process far easier than many international migrations in other regions. And this ease of movement accelerates brain drain, as talented individuals follow opportunity without the friction barriers that might otherwise keep them in their home country. In response, New Zealand has had to rely heavily on immigration, bringing in skilled workers from Asia and other regions to offset the departure of native talent. Yet even many of these new arrivals eventually migrate onward to Australia, creating a cyclical dynamic in which the country is simultaneously losing its young workforce while maintaining attractiveness for retirees and wealthy foreigners, meaning that the nation is gradually turning into a place where property, markets and lifestyle dominate while industrial diversity and job opportunities struggle to keep pace. And this combination creates a multi-layered challenge that is difficult to reverse, because restricting migration to Australia politically would be nearly impossible, given that over 10% of New Zealanders already live there, and they represent an active voting bloc that would oppose policies limiting their freedom of movement. Economically, the situation is also complex because although losing young workers harms productivity, many eventually return with experience, skills, and capital that benefit the local economy. But these benefits are long-term and do not resolve the immediate challenges of talent shortages, housing unaffordability, and limited high-value employment. And fixing these structural issues would require sustained, targeted strategies, including diversifying the economy into high-tech sectors, incentivizing startups and innovation hubs, increasing investment in advanced education and vocational training, improving housing affordability through tax policy and planning reforms, and generally making New Zealand more rewarding for young professionals to live and work in without sacrificing its unique environmental and social qualities. Despite these challenges, New Zealand retains major advantages such as low public debt, high quality of life, strong institutions, and unparalleled natural beauty, which continue to attract global attention from foreign investors buying premium properties to tourists and retirees seeking scenic lifestyles, meaning that while emigration remains high, the country's reputation as a safe, stable, and desirable place to live ensures a continual influx of people and capital, creating a complex interplay between opportunity, lifestyle, and economic structure that makes the New Zealand case fascinating from both an economic and social perspective. And as long as these underlying factors remain, the country will continue to experience a mix of brain drain, immigration, housing pressures, and luxury investment, illustrating that beauty and stability alone do not guarantee a fully balanced economy, and that the solutions require nuanced, long-term policies aimed at making opportunity and affordability align with the lifestyle advantages that make New Zealand so attractive in the first place. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe for more detailed economic analysis, videos that break down global issues clearly for viewers in the United States and beyond.